The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, dedicated to creating access to financial well-being for local people, businesses, and communities. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop.
Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte, and we are in North Adams for summer's last hurrah, where a wealth of folks make names for themselves across folk, roots, country, Americana, and global sounds gather for one of the season's final festivals.
Final in that summer is over on Monday, and of course, or rather Sunday.
No, I think it's Monday.
And we are, of course, talking about FreshGrass. 3 days of new, familiar, and commissioned works and musicians coming together at MassMocha to share in community.
FreshGrass held its first festival back in 2010, helmed by the FreshGrass Foundation, who also published noted Americana and traditional music journal No Depression. The festival is rich with original compositions, spirited contests, and spontaneous collaborations.
And today we are broadcasting from Studio 9, now the home of FreshGrass Institute, to connect with the many festivities here. We'll chat with some of the folks who bring the festival to life, including Oli Chanoff and Sue Killam from the FreshGrass Foundation and Annie McDonald of MassMocha. We'll also have a live performance from award-winning banjo player Allison DeGroot.
And there'll be some dancing with that as well, which is very exciting. But
dancing for radio.
Dancing for the radio. It's tap dancing, though. But we're going to start off with an artist who has Western Mass ties, we have been told, although I couldn't really figure them out. Mike Block is a Grammy-winning, multi-style cellist, composer, singer, and educator with a passion for cross-cultural collaborations.
Since 2005, Mike has been a member of the Silk Road Ensemble, founded by Yo-Yo Ma, now led by Rhiannon Giddens, with which he has been featured as a cellist, a vocal soloist, where they earned a Grammy Award for Best Global Music Album in 2017.
As an innovator, Mike was among the first wave of cellists to use a strap to stand up while performing, using his own patented design, the Block Strap. It's like the Block chain.
No.
But it's a strap.
Nope.
Mike was the first standing cellist to perform at Carnegie Hall.
We welcome the Mike Block Trio, featuring Joe K. Walsh on mandolin and vocals, who joined us from FreshGrass in years past, as well as Zachariah Hickman,
who we think joined us either on this show or when we were on 93.9 The River. Has many tendrils into the musical community that we love.
The valley is tiny.
Yes. Let's start out with some live music from Live Music Friday from the Mike Block Trio.
Our doors will open up, letting invite everyone, and
That is the Mike Block Trio here at FreshGrass, Studio 9 at Porches, the home of the FreshGrass Foundation. Mike is going to take off of his cello, which he was dancing around with while performing.
I mean, when you have a strap on and you can wear it.
I don't think that's what it's called.
You just strap on the cello.
Oh, yes, right. Also lost to the radio listener is the fact that there have been animations as part of this performance here. And we're going to hear about Mike Block's commission that has to do with architecture. Thanks for joining us, Mike Block.
Happy to be here. Thank you, Monty.
When you got the commission, did you already have an idea to do a suite about architecture? Because your piece is about the works of Frank Lloyd Wright.
This is right. What I've realized is that I have dreams to fulfill that nobody is asking of me. And so
that's what commissions are for.
Exactly. So as a child, before I knew I wanted to be a musician, I wanted to be an architect. And Frank Lloyd Wright was this big figure in my mind, and I was so inspired by how kind of like total his vision was. Like, he not only designed houses, but he designed the furniture in the houses, and every house matched the environment it was in a very customized way. And I was just always inspired by how thoughtful and intentional he was about even the smallest decisions. And so as an adult, musician, I started playing concerts at Frank Lloyd Wright houses, and I was artist in residence at his house, Taliesin, and I even have been running a creative music retreat for the past 2 summers at his Fallingwater house. So basically, I've been getting deeper and deeper into this Frank Lloyd Wright community, and so I started writing music at Taliesin and at Fallingwater, and soaking in his own life story, which is incredibly dramatic and actually tragic. But he had such like a force of will to power through, the death of family members, and in his own house, Taliesin became kind of the inspiration for this suite, because that house burned down twice.
Wow.
And yet he kept rebuilding, and that kind of optimism and just really the desire to rebuild, not once but twice, was kind of the underlying inspiration for what I was proposing to the good people here at FreshGrass. And so now the Mike Block Trio, with these incredible musicians, Joe K. Walsh, mandolin, Zachariah Hickman, bass, we've teamed up with a visual artist who I've worked with for many years, Kevork Murad, who specializes in live illustration with music. And it just seemed like, how can we bring this world of Frank Lloyd Wright to life without some sort of visual element? So that's what we're going to be able to share at the premiere tonight.
It's kind of unbelievable.
What we got to see when you were rehearsing before we began here is, it looked surreal at first, the illustrations, and all of a sudden a Frank Lloyd Wright, the Guggenheim emerges. You know what I mean? So
right,
yeah, it's pretty incredible to see the mixture of the animation and illustration with the beauty of the music.
Is that a composite cello? Because the sides definitely look not wooden.
This is true. I have to apologize. Everything I do seems to require explanation. But the instrument I'm playing is a very special one by a company, Forte 3D. And I have been helping them develop these instruments because it's a new company, but it's the world's first 3D printed carbon fiber cello. And what's extra confusing is it's got the painting of a fake old Italian cello on top, just to confuse people slightly more.
But no
it does
arch.
look like wood on top.
But no arch like a wooden cello would generally have.
The construction is slightly different to take advantage of these materials, but I've been enjoying playing it for like a year and a half now.
Why? What made you want to play a 3D printed cello as opposed to, so people get so Stradivarius and all these big names and instrument manufacturers
This is true.
of the past?
Maybe the first issue was I was never able to afford a Stradivarius.
Right.
But I've always appreciated modern cellos, and technology, amazingly enough, keeps progressing, and hypothetically we could keep evolving the instrument design. And so not only does it sound great, but because of the material, it can't get hurt. Mostly by me. So just the lifestyle of not worrying about it is great. And then the mission of the company is we've got these professional level instruments at a very accessible price. So it's a real game changer, and I'm a real believer in what's possible with it.
Yeah, immediately I thought, like, oh yeah, you don't have any humidity woes anymore.
Yeah,
No.
probably stays in tune a little better. And if we're speaking with Mike Block, and the Mike Block Trio has been commissioned to do this Frank Lloyd Wright piece that you can see here at FreshGrass this evening. And you can probably gather just by talking to him the eccentricities that fascinate him and that fascinate us as well. But let me give you a rundown of the type of collaborations that he does musically. He'll play Bach for you, but it's also like playing with beatbox and guitarists and Indian tabla players and African fusion bands, as well as an in-demand arranger and contributor to Miley Cyrus, Elton John, Bobby McFerrin, Metallica, Morrissey, Raffi, The Knights. It goes on and on. It's incredible, and it comes out in what we have experienced with you in this brief period of time and the music that we've heard from you before. But another thing that's really important to you is Play for the Vote, which I guess is sort of like MTV's Rock the Vote, but it's more like Bach the Vote, where you're busking at polling stations to try to encourage people to come out and vote. Tell us about that.
Well, that's exactly it. You know, in 2020, it was a stressful year for a lot of people. I don't know if you remember. And I found myself practicing and playing music to feel better and feel more calm. And I just had this flash. Well, if it's helping me, you know, and I believe in the power of music, maybe this would actually help other people feel better. And so I thought, well, maybe I should go to the polling location on voting day and play music for people. And, you know, within 10 minutes, I realized, what if everybody did that? And so that's how we formed Play for the Vote. And it's a simple, nonpartisan goal, which is on election day, which can feel competitive and, you know, adversarial by nature. Everybody who shows up to vote is actually there for the same reason. Is to kind of, you know, have their voice heard and to think about the future of our country. So music is a way to help create that shared experience, bring people together, and make Election Day a unifying experience versus a competitive experience. And music is uniquely positioned, I think, to create that experience for people in person while they're voting.
Did the broad swath of genres that you engage in and the collaborations that you engage in happen before or after Silk Road Ensemble? Like, was it sort of a mind-opening moment for possibilities of what you could do with your instrument, or was it just kind of like another step in something you already believed?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. My first tour with Yo-Yo Ma and the Silk Road Ensemble was actually while I was still in school at Juilliard. But I was searching. I was unhappy with maybe the path that I was being shown musically, and I was already trying to compose and improvise, but it was, you know, in a limited way. And then the beauty of the Silk Road Ensemble was suddenly I was collaborating closely with people who played instruments I had never seen before. And so my whole concept of what music could be was instantly like zoomed out. And I realized I was just a small pebble in this beach. And so ever since those early experiences, that's been the feeling I've been looking for, which is collaborating with people across cultural differences so that we can find these new connections and find these new ways of making music. And so that, as you kind of were going through some of my projects, that's an ongoing theme that you'll see. And I would definitely credit, you know, my young experiences with Silk Road Ensemble of showing me that path of what it could feel like. Yeah.
And
one by
you
one,
write
we're going to
about
get everybody from Silk Road Ensemble
I know.
on. We have had so many Silk Road Ensemble individual members over the course of the 2.5 years of this show. We're getting there. We're going to work our way up to Rhiannon Giddens and Yo-Yo Ma eventually.
Monty, we're not allowed to treat them like Pokemon. This is not
You've got to collect
how
them
it
all.
works.
Well, should we hear something else from the Mike Block Trio?
Please.
Is this from your commission
Absolutely,
as well?
yeah. If it's okay, we'll try out another brand new piece. We'll be
Please.
premiering it tonight. And this is a piece inspired by Falling Water, Frank Lloyd Wright's famous house that was built on the stream in Bear Run, Pennsylvania. And for me, it connects to the work he did at Taliesin because he designed it in Taliesin, but it's such a unique space. So actually the opening elements of this piece I composed while standing under the waterfall.
Oh, wow.
Of Falling Water, and it kind of grew into this piece that captures a lot of, you know, the life that I'm aware of was lived in that house. And so that's what we're going to play with Joe K. Walsh, Zach Hickman, and our visual artist Kevorg Murat.
Excellent. We are at Studio 9 at FreshGrass. The FreshGrass Festival runs today, tomorrow, and Sunday. You can see Mike Block and the trio and other commissioned pieces, one of which we'll have on the show a little bit later with Allison DeGroot, as well as Valerie June in the Hunter Center throughout the course of this evening. Mike is putting on his wearable cello and ready to play. I make the joke at least once a week, there's always room for cello. And now, the room for cello is on your own human body.
Oh my God, that's just so cool.
Unbelievable. A very special live music Friday here at FreshGrass at Mass Mocha inside Studio 9, home of the FreshGrass Institute, with the Mike Block Trio featuring Joe K. Walsh on mandolin, as well as Zechariah Hickman on bass, and Mike Block on the 3D printed cello and vocals with live animation assist from Kavork Murad.
Coming up, we'll hear from another musician who's been commissioned to make work for the FreshGrass Festival, Allison DeGroot.
But first, to take a 10K view of the festivities with some of the folks who organized the whole thing, we'll speak with folks from the FreshGrass Foundation and Mass Mocha next.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413, broadcasting from the FreshGrass Festival on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Eastworks, 500,000 square feet dedicated to artists, entrepreneurs, and nonprofits where community happens. Learn more at eastworks.com.
It's the Fabulous 413, broadcasting from Studio 9 at the FreshGrass Institute in North Adams as we celebrate the beginning of the FreshGrass Festival. 3 days of roots, Americana, traditional, blues, global, and more music in the Berkshires.
But as they say, it takes a village. So with us to talk more about what's going on at the 2025 festival are some of the major movers of the FreshGrass Village, Director of Programming Oli Chanoff, Director of the FreshGrass Institute Sue Killam, and Addie McDonald, General Manager of Events at Mass Mocha. We are so glad to have come into your space once again for the third time in the history of this show.
We love it. Welcome here.
Yes. And Sue, we just had you on about a month or so ago talking about some of the things the FreshGrass Institute is all about. So tell us, if people missed that, what the FreshGrass Institute and Foundation are and how it is foundational to this music festival.
I love a lot of foundational there.
Yeah.
The FreshGrass Institute is a new program of the FreshGrass Foundation where we're located here at Studio 9, which is the beating heart of it, but we do residencies and workshops and performances, and our goal is to create a creative space for artists and the community alike to be here. And we're also a recording studio, so we do all of those things. And how we connect to the festival and the foundation is that we're all part of the ecosystem. We're all part of the same plane, same idea, same kind of music, same kind of commitment to artists and working together. So, yeah.
The building Studio 9 that we're in right now, lost on the listener of the radio, it's like part cornucopia, part like band hatch shell. It's got these beautiful wooden structures. But it's like a state-of-the-art studio, right? That people can come and not just record a radio show, but record a whole studio album.
Yeah, often when we show up, people are recording things for the festival or for themselves.
Yeah. Even after the shows, that will be exactly what's happening again.
I was going to say that's exactly what's happening even after the festival ends, because Sierra Hull is going to record here on Monday.
Nice.
And Bella Fleck recorded here last year. So yes, we are a state-of-the-art recording studio. We have a beautiful Meyer Constellation sound system that also not only helps in the recording process, but also can, in the performance element, you can make this space sound like a jazz club or a cathedral, and there are no bad seats. So it's a great listening room. But then we have a full array of recording opportunities too.
So the FreshGrass Institute and Foundation exist separately, but in conjunction with Mass Mocha. When you hear about FreshGrass in our area, at least, and the music festival, Mass Mocha is what a lot of people think of. And we're joined by General Manager of Events at Mass Mocha, where Sue Killam from FreshGrass, just until recently, was working as well. There is this, I'll call it synergy as opposed to incestuous relationship between the two. But
just a little. Yeah.
Tell us, what is Mass Mocha's relationship to FreshGrass, Addie McDonald?
Talk about the center of this Venn diagram.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if it'll translate for radio, but this is going to be FreshGrass number 14, if I'm not mistaken. Right. And on a, just from a festival standpoint, it really kind of marks the end of our summer, but a long-term relationship with the FreshGrass Institute, with the office, and it's a really, fun way for all of us to kind of collaborate and kind of activate the town of North Adams. So for us here over at Mocha, it's really a chance for all the departments to, sometimes get out of our silo and start trying to like play a role in kind of activating the town, activating the campus, the galleries, and whatnot. And we really look at ourselves as partners, and our strength is really being able to take the great lineup that Oli brings us and Sue brings us and operationalize it and bring it to life. I know it's not sexy to say, but I view my role as kind of like taking these great artists and administrative and operationally, making sure that they jive with the museum and help it kind of come alive. And so we're going to have 3 great days ahead of us, and it's beautiful outside, so really looking forward to it.
Where does FreshGrass sit amongst the festivals that happen here at MassMoCA, just sort of like vibe-wise?
I think it's probably one of the more beloved ones from a staff and town perspective. Again, as I mentioned earlier, it kind of marks the end of our summer season, so it is kind of a huge sigh of relief for a lot of us. And, you know, as our oldest festival and one of the oldest repeat things at MoCA in general, it's really a great way for us to, you know, start welcoming artists that we've worked with in the past and see how their careers have progressed. But also a lot of the people that come to the festival are the same people 14 years later. I've met people who have gotten married here. My son's kindergarten teacher comes here every year. And it becomes, the general public becomes familiar. And so it is kind of, a time on the calendar where we know institutionally we can all come together, but also we're going to see a lot of familiar faces in the crowd and on the stage.
That's Addison McDonald, who's the general manager of events at MassMoCA, where the FreshGrass Festival takes place today, tomorrow, and Sunday. We are also joined by the director of programming for FreshGrass, Oli Chanoff, who's part of the foundational team of the whole FreshGrass concept. And we've had you on this broadcast before. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit, break the lineup down for us, who you're excited to see. We can't hit everybody, but give us some of the highlights.
I'll try to keep it brief. And just to speak really briefly to what Addie said, I think it's so important to recognize, we put together this beautiful festival together very much in collaboration, and booking the artists and who's going to come and perform, that's what the audience is looking at and coming and expecting, but the experience the audience has on site has everything to do with how the festival is produced, not just the artists on stage, but what happens to you when you walk through the doors and how it feels. And, so that's the collaboration is really very deep and profound to make sure that experience is what we all want it to be. And it's really a collaboration to make that happen. So anyway, thank you for having us all again here.
It's a delight to come. We get so excited about it.
And so the lineup, we're so excited about the lineup every year. I always say this, you say, what are your highlights? And I end up trying not to say everybody who's in the lineup.
Because you brought them all.
Right.
Choosing your favorite baby.
To be fair, that's also a collaboration. So I'm the director of programming. I'm kind of leading a team who is working on the lineup, and that includes other folks at the foundation, Sue and Chris Wadsworth, who's the founder of the FreshGrass Foundation, and Addie and his team are in the mix there, and and I have a team also that's working on the programming. So it's really a group effort. It's not that I'm the curator of the festival. It's a collaborative effort as well.
Sure.
He's a humble man. Very humble man.
I'm just going to say there's a lot more dancing this year because you've got Lee Fields and Sima Funk on the same night.
That is true, and I was gonna mention both of those. For me, the highlights are very frequently, first of all, the commissions, and we talked about them some with Mike earlier today, and we're going to have Allison DeGroot coming up soon, who is another commissioned artist. Valerie June we've commissioned as well. Also Bill Evans doing a wild piece tomorrow based on Terry Riley's In C, but with all banjos. I love the commissions because, what...
They're so wacky and amazing.
I love it when you can say what it is and people just burst out laughing.
Yeah.
But that's honestly what I love most about the commissions is we invite these artists who we love, who we think are doing, interesting and important things to make something new, but that's almost as much direction as we give, and what they come back with is always a surprise, is always interesting. You have Mike writing a piece based on Frank Lloyd Wright, and you think, what the hell does that mean? That's incredible. Allison, who is going to be here at the festival doing a set separate from the commission tomorrow with Tatiana Hargreaves, fantastic fiddler. We said, we'd love to commission you to do something, and she's doing something completely different from that set, working with Nick Garez, with a percussive dancer. That's, and then Valerie is doing something that's going to be a mix of songs and storytelling and poetry and video projection, And that was all a surprise, and we're going to see those things and hear those things for the first time at the festival. Nobody has had a chance to see these projects yet. So I love the commissions. That's always a really exciting part of it. And then the other thing I love is those sort of, you mentioned Simafunk, you mentioned Lee Fields, and it's those moments that get created when you have, for example, on Saturday, Old Crow Medicine Show, the most FreshGrassy of bands, right? and they're headlining. We've had them
They're
before.
at the sort of the hub of the wagon wheel.
Exactly.
no,
very
stop
good,
it.
Monty. Thank you for that. I'm glad I didn't have to say it.
Yeah, okay.
myself. People are going to come for Old Crow. They're going to say, "Oh, I love Old Crow, and I love some of the other bluegrass, and I'm going to buy that ticket." And then they get here, and before Old Crow goes on, right before that, on the No Depression stage, they're going to encounter Simafunk, which is like this incredible high-energy Cuban funk band with a lead singer who's like James Brown reincarnated, and there's a huge horn section and percussion, and it's not what they necessarily are expecting, and it's going to absolutely blow them away. And those kind of intersections, those moments of discovery and surprise are, for me, always the most exciting things. And I think the thing that you hear people talking about after the festival is, I came for this, but I discovered this other artist, and I wasn't expecting it. It was something that was totally out of what I was thinking I was walking into. And I think that's kind of the magic of FreshGrass, is the mix of those things. So Simafunk I'm super excited about. Lee Fields is amazing. That's going to be a huge love fest of a set. I'm really excited about that. And then I would just mention one more. There's, like I said, I could mention all of the artists on the festival because it's a wonderful lineup. But the closing set is Sam Grisman Project and Peter Rowan and the FreshGrass All-Stars. So they'll have a bunch of guests from the festival lineup playing the music of Old and in the Way, which is a real cult album and project that included Jerry Garcia and David Grisman, Sam's dad, and Peter Rowan in the lineup. That record came out in 1973.
Wow.
They're going to be playing that music. It's incredible, and that's going to be a beautiful culmination of the festival. I'm really excited about that one.
For sure.
It's the FreshGrass Festival at Mass MoCA. It begins this afternoon. It goes through Sunday, and we have been joined by the Director of Programming for the FreshGrass Festival, Oli Chanoff, as well as the Director of the FreshGrass Institute, Sue Killam, and Addie McDonald, General Manager of Events at Mass MoCA.
Responsible for putting musicians in the galleries sometimes.
I love that stuff. The little quirky pop-ups and things that you find here, it's always a magical discovery, no matter what festival you come to see at Mass MoCA. And we will hear more of some of those magical discoveries in just a little bit as we round out our time in North Adams with award-winning Canadian banjo ingenue Alison DeGroot.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar, helping Western Mass families achieve greater energy independence through solar power, battery systems, and air source heat pumps. Northeast-solar.com.
It's the Fabulous 413, broadcasting from Studio 9 at Porches in North Adams at the FreshGrass Festival. And with us now is Alison DeGroot, who's a clawhammer banjo player from Winnipeg, Canada, who first heard banjo on a recording as a teenager and instantly knew she wanted to learn how to play.
Allison performs in duos with Tatiana Hargraves and also Nick Garris, both of whom she'll perform with this weekend, and is in the house band for the Transatlantic Sessions. She was recently awarded the Steve Martin Banjo Prize for Excellence in Banjo and was nominated for Instrumentalist of the Year at the Americana Music Association Awards. Her duo with Tatiana was recognized by the Canadian Folk Music Awards and the Junos for their album Hurricane Clarice. As well as performing, she also teaches at traditional music camps and through an online course hosted by ArtistWorks.
She, too, has a FreshGrass commission featuring Nick Garris, who is step dancing, flat-footing. We're going to find out all about what that is, but what you will hear is Alison DeGroot playing the banjo and live dancing for percussion. Take it away, Alison and Nick. That is Allison DeGroot on the clawhammer banjo, and Nick Garris, who is step/Appalachian flatfoot dancing here in Studio 9 at Porches.
It also reminds me of like clogwork, like when you get like into mountain clog dancing, like, yeah, similar to that too.
Totally what I was going to say. Clogwork to me is the plumbing that I have to deal with in my own home. But this is part of a commission, Allison. So, you're a banjo player, and were you working with Nick in another capacity and then decide you're going to try to figure out how to merge these two worlds together?
Yeah. Nick and I have had a duo since, I think, 2000, I don't know, maybe 14. So we've played pretty consistently over the past decade, and we're always like, I don't know, just exploring and like pushing each other and seeing how sounds that we come up sort of fit with more traditional sounds, and that's something that like our duo is really kind of just founded on, and we really enjoy that process together. So it did not feel like a stretch to do this with Nick, and felt like a very exciting
Talk
prospect.
about your meet cute.
The what?
Talk about your meet cute.
How did you guys meet?
We actually met. I'm from Winnipeg, and I went to Berklee College of Music, and I had just spent the summer touring and was playing one last festival in Manitoba, the Reedy Creek Festival. It's kind of a Métis dance festival.
Oh, cool.
And Nick was there performing with Brittany Haas, I believe. And so I got to meet Nick like a day before I moved to Boston. And then I think we crossed paths like a week later in Boston. So it was kind of this really sweet, like right before I left, we became friends, and
And Nick, were you dancing at this other festival too?
Yeah, we had a very brief, fleeting music and dance moment, and instantly sort of recognized the spark of rhythmic connection. And from that moment on, I was like, oh yeah, this could be really, really great. Both of us have also worked a lot with different fiddle players. There's a lot of fiddle in the musics and the dance forms that we come from. And so to have just the banjo and the dancing without the fiddle really opened up this whole world of sonic possibilities. Like all these other sounds that you mightn't have heard otherwise really became exposed. And it kind of led, I think, to this collaboration, and then eventually to this commission.
Yeah.
Tell us about your relationship to dance, Nick, and how did you get involved in this traditional form of dancing?
I mean, my parents dragged me to folk festivals when I was a kid, honestly, because
I resent them for it to this day.
They basically liked camping so much, and I hate
sorry
camping.
To hear that. Me
too. What these festivals did have where I grew up was you could go to like a Appalachian flat-footing class at 9:00 in the morning, and then you could go to like a flamenco class at 11:30.
Well, that is pretty cool.
And then there'd be like like a
sort of like Dirty
Zydeco
Dancing
lesson.
when they were at camp. Did you see that? There's all sorts of dance classes.
Yeah,
anyway, sorry,
exactly. It was like this kind of place, a rural setting where people would get together, and people were playing like live fiddle and banjo music, and seeing those forms all together, the kind of this connection between movement and sound, and sort of like sound that you can see and dance that you can hear, created this kind of synesthetic blurring in my tiny mind as a child that like became a lifelong fixation.
So cool.
And then did you just pursue that professionally? So
yeah, I met a lot of teachers through that festival, and then wound up going, living in Ireland for a few years and did my master's degree there, and then went to West Virginia to study in the Appalachian region, and went to Quebec to study the step dancing that's there. And very similarly, I wonder if this is similar in our backgrounds. We grew up going in a folk festival context. Like neither of us maybe grew up with folk music or folk dancing at our knees, like when we were kids from our parents or whatever, but in the folk milieu, that's really where we came to love these forms.
Similarly, like Allison, you specifically do clawhammer style of banjo, but like what appealed to you about that particular style of playing as opposed to other ways that you could approach the banjo?
I just completely fell in love with the sound of it. Like I heard it on a recording as a teenager, and
I heard rumor that it was the Ducks.
It was,
Ducks.
yeah, it was.
I love that band.
Yeah. And my oldest brother, they're from Winnipeg, and my oldest brother went to high school with the guitar player Jordan.
Oh,
and so came home with the CD, and my family put it on, and then I heard the sound of clawhammer. I was like, oh my God, what is that? And then it took me like a year to figure out that style. Like I was like, I want to play banjo, and then I ended up doing like a year out of like the Earl Scruggs book, and I was like, I like this, but it's like not like what I was hearing. And then I figred out that it was specifically claw hammer that I was drawn to.
For those who don't know the difference, differentiate between those two styles, claw hammer and, say, the Earl Scruggs style.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's so many different types of banjo playing. Like, it's definitely, there's such an array of sounds, but claw hammer is like, comes from like an African like downstroke kind of style. So your hand is like, looks like a claw, and you're like literally hammering on the head. So a lot of stuff is sort of hidden behind the hand, and it's a lot of like pull-offs and hammer-ons with your left hand getting a lot of notes. And then, and people kind of say like frailing or old time or claw hammer when referring to that style, but there are so many different ways of playing old time and claw hammer. And then like bluegrass, or like Scruggs style is often like, yeah, picking 3 fingers, picks on your hand. So it's definitely a different tone, but yeah.
Where you put claws on your hands. To
You
simulate.
put,
Right, yeah,
you
which
put
is
little
also
mini
very
claws
interesting.
on your hand.
Briefly, what is the difference between step dancing and flat footing?
Yeah,
Nick?
flat footing comes from the Appalachian region, states like Southwest Virginia, Western North Carolina, East Tennessee, West Virginia, and that form is really a mix of like, it's like an African diasporic form that's also infused and inflected with like indigenous dance practices, and also like step dancing from Ireland that came there. And step dance, sort of writ large, is this kind of family of percussive dance practices where people are making sound with their feet. So in my background, like the step dance side of it is like growing up going to Irish dancing lessons in like Lansing and Detroit, in Corktown.
That's cool.
But then going with my parents to the Appalachian region, that's where I saw like this other form that was maybe perhaps the weight is more released into the floor. You can feel the flat of the foot on the ground, whereas maybe in the step dancing, you're thinking about articulating with the balls of your feet, toes, and heels.
Well, before we have Alison DeGroot and Nick Garris play us out for today's show from FreshGrass, let's tell everybody what's happening on the show next week.
So next week on the Fabulous 413, we congratulate the latest Mass Humanities Award winner for storytelling, Ken Casey of the Dropkick Murphys.
And show you how you can engage with literary figures of today in deep conversations at the Wit Festival in Lenox.
We'll hear about Mr. G's new book and celebratory event at the Eric Carle Museum.
And head up to Orange, where the stinkiest allium gets a whole weekend of activities at the Garlic and Arts Festival.
Plus live music from the Mammals and a local legend passing a torch at Community Action.
We're going to get more banjo lessons from the Mammals, I think, next
think
week
so.
on the show for Live Music Friday, so that should be exciting. This is another piece from the brand new FreshGrass Commission featuring Alison DeGroot and Nick Garris. Alison on the claw hammer banjo, and Nick step dancing and Appalachian flat footing, which is new to me as of today. I'm excited to see more of it. Thank you so much for listening to the Fabulous 413 here on 88.5 NEPM. Take it away, Alison and Nick.
gosh, so cool. But like the thing that it reminds me a lot of, even though it's an entirely different like tradition, is bomba. Like that conversation you get between player and dancer and how they play out riff off of each other. It's so cool. And if you come to FreshGrass tonight, you get a chance to see it in its entirety.
Yeah, it was really cool to be able to watch the eye contact between the two of you and when you're going to change. It's like being in a band. It's really cool. The other thing worth noting to the listener is that Allison, Nick has shoes on. Oh, come over here real quick because we have another few seconds before we run out of time. Those look like bowling shoes, Nick. Are they bowling shoes?
It's similar to bowling shoes. It's a smooth-soled leather shoe. Yeah, you could probably use bowling shoes if you wanted to buy a pair of old used bowling shoes.
Yeah, but you wouldn't get as solid a knock when you do the heel clicks.
Yeah, that stacked leather is the thing in the back. Kathleen Ciroli made these shoes. I really love her shoes. She has made a bunch of shoes for me, and she has a cool idea of trying to think about using a thinner sole in the front and a thicker stacked heel in the back to create a difference in tone or tonality with the shoe.
Who thinks about that with shoes? Nick
Dancers.
does. And Allison, though, while still tapping her foot the whole time, shoes off.
Yeah, I don't want to distract the perfect rhythm that Nick has with my clomping feet.
It's amazing. Well, thank you both so much for joining us here on the Fabulous 413 from Studio 9 at FreshGrass. Enjoy the FreshGrass Festival this weekend.
Thanks for having us.